Welcome and thank you for joining us. Your support means the world. Quick question. Where are you listening from today? Which city? Which country? Drop it below. Now let's dive into today's story. Orlando Russo stood in his dimly lit home office, staring at the bank statement on his computer screen. The numbers didn't add up, they hadn't for months. Another withdrawal from Marcus's college fund, this time for $3,000. His fingers drummed against the mahogany desk as he pulled up the previous statements, each showing similar patterns of unexplained expenses. The house was quiet except for the gentle hum of his computer. Jenny would be home soon from her late shift at Midwest Medical Center. Orlando checked his watch 9:45 p.m. His wife's administrative role rarely required such late hours, but lately, they'd become more frequent. He heard the garage door open downstairs. Jenny's heels clicked against the hardwood floors, followed by the thud of her purse hitting the kitchen counter. Orlando took a deep breath, straightened his shoulders, and headed downstairs. Jenny stood at the kitchen island, her dark hair slightly disheveled, scrolling through her phone. She looked up with a practiced smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Hey, honey, there's leftover lasagna if you're hungry. I need to talk to you about Marcus's college fund," Orlando said, keeping his voice steady. He placed the printed statements on the counter between them. Jenny's smile faltered for a moment before returning, more forced than before. "Oh, those withdrawals? They're for his AP program fees and the summer internship application process. You know how expensive these things are getting?" Orlando studied his wife's, faced the slight twitch at the corner of her mouth, the way her fingers nervously tapped against the counter. After 20 years of marriage, he knew her tells. "Funny thing is, I called the school. The AP fees were only $400, and the internship applications haven't opened yet." The color drained from Jenny's face, but she recovered quickly. "I must have mixed up the expenses. It's been hectic at work with the new hospital wing opening. Dr. Nelson has us working overtime to get everything organized." "Dr. Nelson," Orlando repeated, the name tasting bitter on his tongue. "You've been mentioning him a lot lately." "He's my boss, Orlando. Of course I talk about him." Jenny pushed past him, heading for the stairs. "I'm tired. Can we discuss this tomorrow?" "Sure," Orlando replied, watching her retreat. "We'll talk tomorrow?" But tomorrow never seemed to come. For the next week, Jenny made excuses: early meetings, late shifts, yoga classes. The yoga classes caught Orlando's attention. She'd started them 3 months ago. Around the same time, the mysterious withdrawals began. One afternoon, while Jenny was at work, Orlando found himself standing in their bedroom, staring at her yoga mat rolled up in the corner. Something about it seemed off. The mat was expensive, a birthday gift from the ladies at work, with a hollow core for better storage. He picked it up, feeling its weight. Too heavy for just a mat. His fingers found the Velcro closure at one end, and as he opened it, a phone slid out, an old model smartphone he'd never seen before. Orlando's hands trembled as he turned it on. No password protection. The messages loaded immediately. Hundreds of them, between Jenny and a contact saved simply as C. "Miss you already. Last night was incredible. C. Can't wait for Wednesday. Same place? Jenny. I'll book our usual room. I can watch him again. C. Mom's always happy to help with Marcus. She thinks I deserve some me time. Jenny." The timestamps went back months, years. Orlando scrolled until his eyes burned, finding messages from when Marcus was just a child. "M's asthma acting up again. Perfect excuse for Friday. Jenny, I'll make sure your insurance covers the treatments. The usual time? C." Orlando sat heavily on the bed, his world tilting on its axis. Dr. Calvin Nelson. Wednesday and Friday evenings. Lucille watching Marcus. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. He was still sitting there when Marcus came home from his college classes. His son's footsteps bounded up the stairs, pausing at the doorway. "Dad? You okay?" Orlando looked up at his son, 18, brilliant, pre-med like his mother had always pushed for. How much of their life had been carefully orchestrated? "Just thinking," Orlando managed. "How about we have dinner together tonight? Just us?" Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Can't. Mom's book club night. I promised Grandma Lucille I'd help her set up her new TV while Mom's out." "Book club," Orlando repeated. "Your mother's been going to that for years." hasn't she? Yeah, every Wednesday and Friday. She's really into it. Marcus grinned, though I've never actually seen her read a book. The front door opened downstairs and Jenny's voice called up. Marcus? Orlando? I'm home early. Orlando slipped the phone into his pocket. Perfect timing. We need to talk. Downstairs, Jenny was arranging fresh flowers in a vase lilies, her favorite. She'd changed clothes since morning, wearing a new blouse Orlando didn't recognize. Jenny, he said, holding up the bank statements. Let's talk about these withdrawals again. And while we're at it, let's discuss your book club. Jenny's hands stilled on the flowers. I told you, those are for Marcus's. Stop lying. Orlando's voice cut through the room like a blade. He pulled out the burner phone. How long have you been sleeping with Calvin Nelson? The vase slipped from Jenny's hands, crashing to the floor. Water and flowers spread across the tile as Marcus rushed down the stairs. Mom? Dad? What's going on? Jenny's face contorted. Orlando, how dare you go through my personal things? This is completely inappropriate. Inappropriate? Orlando laughed, but there was no humor in it. Like using our son's college fund to pay for hotel rooms? Like having your mother babysit him while you... Dad, stop. Marcus stepped between them. You can't talk to Mom like that. Show him the phone, Jenny, Orlando said quietly. Show him the messages going back to when he was 4 years old. Tell him about all those Wednesday and Friday nights at Grandma's while you were with your boss. Jenny's facade cracked. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she reached for Marcus. Baby, it's not what you think. It was just one mistake, just recently. Your father is trying to make me look bad. Don't. Orlando's voice was steel. He turned to Marcus. While you were having asthma treatments at the hospital, your mother was meeting Dr. Nelson in hotel rooms. Your grandmother covered for her. Every time. Marcus shook his head violently. You're lying. Mom's always been there for me. You're the one who was never around, always at science fairs. Always with your students. Because she pushed me to take those responsibilities, Orlando realized aloud. To keep me busy while she... The doorbell rang, cutting through the tension. Jenny wiped her eyes quickly, composing herself as she opened the door to reveal Lucille, her mother, standing there with a concerned expression. Jenny, darling, you called? Lucille's eyes took in the scene, the broken vase, Orlando's rigid posture, Marcus's confused face. What's happening here? Orlando's making horrible accusations. Jenny sobbed. About me and Calvin. Calvin? Lucille's expression hardened as she turned to Orlando. Really? In this day and age, you're going to shame your wife for having a close male friend? Modern marriages need freedom, understanding. Like your marriages, Lucille? Orlando's voice dripped with contempt. How many affairs did you have? Is that why you helped Jenny hide hers? Lucille lifted her chin. I had 3 wonderful marriages, each with its own arrangements. Jenny learned from me that women deserve to be happy, to explore their... Get out! Orlando's command silenced the room. Both of you, pack your bags and get out. You can't kick us out. Jenny protested. This is my house too. The house I paid for while you spent our savings on hotel rooms? Orlando pulled out his phone. Should we call Calvin's wife? I'm sure she'd love to hear about your arrangements. Jenny's face went white. You wouldn't dare. Try me? Marcus stepped forward, his face a mask of anger. If Mom goes, I go too. Marcus, please, Orlando started, but his son was already heading upstairs to pack. The next weeks passed in a blur of lawyers' offices and mediation meetings. Jenny hired Eileen Castro, a shark of a divorce attorney known for bleeding husbands dry. Orlando sat through depositions where his colleagues testified about knowing about his open marriage lies Jenny had spread to cover her tracks. The final blow came when Theodore Duke, his department head, and someone he considered a friend, admitted to helping Jenny hide her relationship with Calvin. I thought I was respecting your lifestyle choice, Theodore said awkwardly in his office. Jenny said you had an understanding. Orlando cleared his desk that afternoon, submitting his resignation. He had one last stop to make before leaving town, a private investigator's office downtown. I need everything you can find about Jenny and Calvin Nelson's relationship, he told the investigator. And I need you to run DNA tests using these. He placed a folder of Marcus's old medical records on the desk. You sure you want to know? The investigator asked. Orlando nodded, his jaw set. Truth has a way of coming out eventually. I just need to be patient. He left town the next day, driving west toward Colorado and a new job offer. In his rearview mirror, the city shrank away along with 20 years of lies. Orlando felt lighter with each mile, knowing that sometimes the best revenge was simply waiting for karma to run its course. The late afternoon sun painted the highway gold as he drove, reminding him of all those science fairs he'd organized, all those students he'd helped achieve their dreams. He'd do it again, help more students build something new. And when the truth finally caught up with Jenny and Calvin, he'd be ready. His phone buzzed with a text from Faith Bruce, the school nurse and his one remaining ally in town. Marcus moved in with Jenny. They're saying horrible things about you. Stay strong. Time reveals all truths. Orlando smiled grimly and turned off his phone. He had research to do, tests to wait for, and a new life to build. Jenny could keep her lies for now. The truth would find her soon enough. The Rocky Mountains loomed against the Colorado sky as Orlando pulled into the parking lot of Summit STEM Academy. 2 years had passed since he'd left behind the wreckage of his marriage, and the crisp mountain air still felt like freedom every morning. Principal Sarah Chun waited in the doorway, her expression brightening as he approached. The lab equipment arrived, Dr. Russo. Your new advanced chemistry program can start next week. Orlando smiled, noting how she used his academic title, something his old school had rarely bothered with. Perfect timing. I have 3 promising students who could use the gas chromatograph for their scholarship applications. Inside his classroom, Orlando surveyed the gleaming lab stations. Each represented another step away from his past, another student he could help build a better future. His phone buzzed a text from Faith Bruce, his one remaining connection to his old life. Thought you should know, Marcus started pre-med this semester. Jenny's posting about it everywhere. She and Calvin got married last month. Small ceremony. Orlando's jaw tightened, but he kept scrolling through the messages. Calvin's practically gloating at the hospital, Faith continued. Acting like Marcus was always his son. Makes me sick. Thanks for keeping me informed. Orlando typed back. How are you holding up there? Barely tolerating it. Jenny's insufferable since the wedding. Strutting around like she's hospital royalty now that she's Mrs. Dr. Nelson. Some of us remember the truth. Orlando set the phone aside and turned to his lesson plans. He had 28 students from disadvantaged backgrounds counting on him for their college recommendations. Their futures mattered more than Jenny's social climbing. Later that afternoon, as he was calibrating the new equipment, his office phone rang. It was James Martinez from the testing lab. Dr. Russo, those DNA samples you submitted? We have the results. Orlando's hand stilled on the dial. Go ahead. Paternity exclusion confirmed. The probability of paternity is 0%. Would you like us to run additional markers? No need. This confirms what I already knew. Orlando's voice remained steady. Please send the full report to my lawyer. After hanging up, Orlando opened his desk drawer and pulled out a thick folder labeled Marcus, Medical Records. Inside, he added the DNA results to 14 years of carefully documented hospital visits, credit card statements, and hotel receipts. The truth would keep for now. Months turned into years. Orlando's chemistry program gained national attention for its success rate with underprivileged students. Every scholarship acceptance letter felt like a personal victory, proof that good could come from even the darkest betrayals. Faith's updates became a regular part of his life, each one reinforcing his decision to wait patiently for the truth to emerge naturally. Marcus is top of his class in medical school, she texted one spring morning. Jenny never misses a chance to mention he's following in Calvin's footsteps. The irony would be funny if it wasn't so cruel. Orlando was preparing his response when another message appeared. Oh, and he's engaged to a genetic counselor named April Cardenas. They met at the hospital. The phone nearly slipped from Orlando's hand. A genetic counselor. He caught his reflection in the classroom window and saw himself smile, the same smile he'd worn when setting up complex chemistry experiments, knowing exactly how each reaction would play out. Nature has a way of revealing truth, he texted back, even when we think we've buried it. The next few months brought more updates. Marcus and April were planning genetic screening before starting a family standard procedure for medical professionals, Faith reported. Orlando marked the date in his calendar and waited. One Tuesday morning, as Orlando supervised a particularly complex titration experiment, his phone lit up with an unfamiliar number. The area code was from back home. Dad? Orlando's hand tightened on the phone. 9 years of silence. And now this single word carried the weight of everything left unsaid. Marcus? He kept his voice neutral. This is unexpected. I've been following your work. The chemistry program you developed, the scholarships. It's incredible. Thank you. Orlando watched his students carefully measuring solutions, their futures expanding with each precise calculation. What can I do for you? April and I are having a baby. A boy. Marcus paused. We'd like to name him after you. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken truths. That's quite a change from our last conversation, Orlando said finally. I know. I was wrong about so many things. Mom made one mistake, and I couldn't understand why you couldn't forgive her. But now that I'm older, starting my own family, Orlando closed his eyes. One mistake. Jenny's lies still held firm, even after all these years. Where are you now? Marcus asked. Denver. Teaching at Summit STEM Academy. Can we meet? There's a cafe near the hospital where April works. I've been meaning to talk to you, to try to understand what happened. Orlando thought of the folder in his desk, waiting for exactly this moment. Text me the address. I'll be there. The next weekend, Orlando sat in the modern safe Marcus had chosen, watching his son approach through the window. Marcus looked more like Calvin than ever, the same confident stride, the same set to his jaw. Nature revealing truth, one genetic marker at a time. Marcus slid into the seat across from him, older and more polished than Orlando remembered. A doctor's white coat was draped over his arm, and a hospital ID badge read Dr. Marcus Russo Nelson. You look well, Marcus offered. Your students are lucky to have you. Thank you. Orlando studied his son's face. How's your mother? Happy. She and Calvin just celebrated their 7th anniversary. She always says leaving was the hardest thing she ever did, but she couldn't live with your inability to forgive one mistake. Stop. Orlando's voice cut through the calf chatter. Before you continue repeating your mother's version of events, there's something you need to know. He reached for his briefcase, but Marcus held up a hand. Actually, Dad, there's something I need to tell you first. He pulled out a medical file. April and I did genetic screening before trying for the baby. Standard procedure in our field. But something came up, blood type inconsistencies that don't make sense given you and Mom's profiles. Orlando sat back, watching the truth begin its slow unveiling. I ran the test 3 times, Marcus continued, his professional demeanor cracking. The markers, they don't align with what they should be. Statistically, it's impossible for you to be your biological father? Orlando finished. No, it's not impossible. It's exactly what your mother and Calvin planned. The color drained from Marcus's face. What are you saying? I think you already know. You're a doctor now. The evidence is in your own DNA. The calf seemed to fade away around them as decades of lies began to crumble. Orlando watched his son, not biologically his, but as in every other way that mattered, grapple with the truth he'd already suspected. All those Wednesday and Friday nights at Grandma's, Marcus whispered. My childhood asthma treatments. Convenient times when Calvin's wife had hospital board meetings. Orlando's voice was gentle but firm. Your mother and Calvin's affair started long before you were born. Lucille didn't just cover for them, she helped plan it. Marcus gripped the edge of the table, his knuckles white. How long have you known? I had my suspicions when I found the burner phone. The DNA test just confirmed what the messages suggested. Orlando paused. I wanted you to discover the truth yourself. You're a scientist, you understand the value of coming to your own conclusions. Why didn't you tell me when you found out? Why let me believe? Would you have believed me then? Over your mother's tears and Calvin's professional reputation? Orlando shook his head. Sometimes the truth needs time to ripen. They sat in silence, the weight of revelation settling between them. Outside, Colorado's autumn painted the trees in shades of truth, stark and beautiful and inevitable. The baby, Marcus finally said. April and I, we're having a son? I know. We were going to name him Orlando. Marcus laughed bitterly. To make amends for how I treated you. But you knew everything, and you still considered you my son? Still kept track of your achievements? Still waited for you to learn the truth on your own terms? Orlando nodded. Some bonds transcend biology, Marcus, just as some betrayals go deeper than a single affair. Marcus stared at his own hands, a doctor's hands, like Calvin's. I built my whole identity around their lies. My career choice, my relationships, even my understanding of what family means. Now you get to decide what to build on the truth. The calf had nearly emptied around them as the afternoon stretched on. Marcus looked up, his eyes showing the same determination Orlando remembered from science fair projects and late-night study sessions. I need to see the evidence, he said. All of it? Orlando nodded, finally opening his briefcase. We should go somewhere private. This isn't a conversation for public spaces. They relocated to April's office at the genetics clinic, its sterile walls a fitting backdrop for the clinical dissection of a family's lies. Orlando laid out the documents one by one: DNA results, birth records, hotel receipts, messages spanning decades of deception. April joined them, her professional expertise adding weight to each piece of evidence. Her hands shook as she reviewed the genetic markers, but her voice remained steady as she confirmed what Orlando had known for years. The patterns are conclusive, she said, holding Marcus's hand. The probability of paternity goes beyond exclusion. It clearly indicates Dr. Nelson as the biological father. Marcus stared at the burner phone messages Orlando had preserved. They discussed me like I was part of their cover story. My illnesses, my college choice, everything. Your mother and Calvin played a long game, Orlando said. They used my dedication to teaching, my trust in your grandmother, even my pride in your medical ambitions against me. And now, they're celebrated at the hospital. Marcus spat. Pillars of the medical community. The perfect power couple. Orlando watched his son's anger build, so similar to his own from years ago. But where Orlando had channeled his rage into patience, into building something new, Marcus would have to find his own path through the betrayal. What happens now? April asked, her hand protectively over her stomach. Marcus stood, gathering the evidence with shaking hands. Now we take this home and decide how to proceed. The truth doesn't just affect us anymore. Orlando nodded, understanding flowing between them. Whatever you decide, know that my door is always open. Blood doesn't make a father, Marcus. Love does. And time reveals all truths. As they parted outside the clinic, Marcus hugged Orlando for the first time in 9 years. I'm sorry, he whispered, for believing them, for letting them turn me against you. You were a child caught in their web, Orlando replied. The question is, what will you do now that you're free of it? Marcus straightened, doctor and son and future father all at once. First, I need to talk to April. Then we make them face what they've done. All of them, Mom, Calvin, Grandma Lucille. No more lies. Orlando watched them drive away, knowing the next act of their story was about to unfold. He had played the long game, waited for truth to emerge on its own terms. Now it was Marcus's turn to decide how justice would be served. Back at Summit STEM Academy, Orlando returned to his classroom. Tomorrow, he would help another group of students unlock the mysteries of molecular bonds and chemical reactions. But today, he allowed himself a moment to appreciate how the elements of truth, like the elements on his classroom's periodic table, always found their natural order. His phone buzzed with a text from Faith. Heard Marcus was in town. Everything okay? Orlando smiled, typing back, better than okay. The truth is finally having its day. He looked out at the mountains, their ancient peaks testament to time's power to reveal what lies buried. The next phase would belong to Marcus, but Orlando had done what he set out to do. He had waited, watched, and let the truth emerge in its own perfect timing. The morning after their CAF meeting, Marcus sat in April's genetics lab, staring at the DNA results Orlando had preserved for 9 years. Each page told a story of calculated deception, with timestamps and medical records forming an irrefutable timeline of betrayal. The markers are conclusive, April said, her professional demeanor cracking as she reviewed the evidence. The paternity exclusion is absolute, and these blood type patterns, they match perfectly with what we found in our screening. Marcus traced the dates on the hotel receipts. Every Wednesday and Friday. Like clockwork, his finger stopped on a particular date. This was my 10th birthday. Mom said she had to work late, but she was actually... Marcus. April's voice was gentle but firm. There's more. She pointed to the burner phone messages Orlando had meticulously documented. Messages that went beyond mere affair logistics to reveal a carefully orchestrated plan spanning decades. Need to make sure M's medical records show the asthma flare-ups for our Wednesday meetings. Jenny? L will cover the story with O, as usual. Board meetings make perfect cover. Calvin, make sure you push O toward that science fair coordinator position. Keeps him busy on our nights. Jenny, they planned everything, Marcus whispered. My whole childhood was structured around their affair. April pulled out Marcus's birth certificate, laying it beside Calvin's medical records. The blood type inconsistencies we found, they weren't mistakes. They're proof. Dr. Nelson is your biological father. Marcus stood abruptly, knocking over his chair. I need to confront them. Now. Are you sure? Maybe we should. I've spent 9 years believing Orlando was the villain in this story. 9 years treating Calvin like some kind of hero for saving our family. His laugh was bitter. I'm done waiting. At Midwest Medical Center, Jenny Nelson Nebraska Russo sat in her upgraded administrative office, arranging fresh flowers lilies. Always lilies when Marcus burst in. Marcus! Her smile faltered at his expression. Honey, what's wrong? Calvin emerged from his connecting office, straightening his white coat. Everything okay, son? Don't call me that. Marcus slapped the DNA results on Jenny's desk. Either of you want to explain this? The color drained from Jenny's face as she recognized Orlando's meticulous documentation. Calvin stepped forward, his professional mask slipping. Where did you get these? From my father. My real father, the man who raised me knowing I wasn't his. Marcus's voice shook. The man you both spent years villainizing while you carried on your affair. Jenny stood, reaching for Marcus. Sweetheart, you don't understand. Orlando was never there for us. Calvin and I... Save it. Marcus pulled away. I saw the messages. About my asthma treatments. About pushing Orlando into extra work. About using Grandma Lucille to cover your Wednesday and Friday meetings. That was a long time ago, Calvin said smoothly. Families are complicated. Your mother and I built our entire relationship on lies. Marcus shouted. Use my childhood illnesses as cover for your affair. Turn me against the man who raised me knowing the truth. Jenny's tears started flowing, the same performance Marcus had seen 9 years ago. We only wanted... What? What could you possibly say to justify this? He pulled out more papers. Here's you discussing my paternity before I was even born. Here's you planning how to use Mom's marriage to hide our affair. Here's you celebrating when Orlando took that science fair position that kept him working late. Calvin's professional demeanor cracked. Those records are private. Orlando had no right. He had every right. April stepped into the office, her own copy of the genetic results in hand. As a genetic counselor, I can confirm these results. The paternity exclusion is absolute. Jenny's tears dried instantly, replaced by cold calculation. This is a private family matter. You have no right to interfere. I'm his fiancée, April replied calmly, and I have a professional obligation to report medical ethics violations, like using false medical records to cover an affair. Calvin's face darkened. Are you threatening me? No, Marcus cut in. We're exposing you. Both of you. Every single lie, every manipulation, every way you used me to hurt Orlando. He turned to the door, where Lucille stood frozen, having arrived for her weekly lunch with Jenny. And you, Marcus spat. My own grandmother. You helped them destroy your daughter's marriage. Used me as a pawn in their affair. Lucille straightened her expensive blazer. Modern marriages require understanding, dear. Your mother deserved to lie, to cheat, to use her child as cover for decades of deception. Marcus laughed bitterly. Did you enjoy it, Grandma? Watching Orlando raise another man's son while helping them sneak around behind his back. Now see here, Calvin started, but Marcus cut him off. No, you see here, Dr. Nelson. I'm taking this evidence to the hospital board. Every falsified medical record, every abuse of your position, every ethical violation you committed to hide your affair. Jenny's FOD finally cracked. You wouldn't dare. Were your parents? No. Orlando is my father. The man who knew the truth and still loved me. Still waited for me to discover it myself. Marcus gathered the evidence. You're just the people who betrayed him. And now everyone will know exactly who you are. The hospital board meeting was brutal. April presented the genetic evidence while Marcus detailed years of falsified medical records. Calvin's wife, Patricia, sat stone-faced as decades of deception unraveled. 20 years, she said when it was over. 20 years of Wednesday board meetings while you were actually... She stood, removing her wedding ring. Expect divorce papers. In an ethics investigation, the fallout was swift. Calvin's medical license was suspended pending investigation. Jenny's position was terminated. The hospital's legal team began damage control as rumors spread through the medical community. Lucille tried calling Marcus daily, leaving tearful voicemails about family loyalty and forgiveness. He blocked her number after the 20th call. The wedding was postponed. Marcus spent months in therapy, rebuilding his sense of self on foundations of truth rather than lies. April stood by him, her own sense of justice strengthened by their ordeal. One spring morning, Marcus and April drove to Denver. Orlando's chemistry program had just received national recognition, and his classroom was filled with students eager to learn from the man who'd taught them that truth, like any chemical reaction, simply needed time and the right conditions to emerge. Dad? Marcus called from the doorway. Students looked up curiously at the formal-looking couple. Orlando smiled. Class dismissed early today. Remember to review Chapter 7 for tomorrow. As the students filed out, Marcus stepped forward. April, and I have news. We're having a boy. Orlando nodded, remembering their calf conversation about names. And we're naming him Oliver, April said softly. After your father. Orlando's expression softened. Dad would have liked that. He always said character shows and how we handle hard truths. Marcus swallowed hard. I'm sorry it took me so long to see the truth. To understand what real fatherhood looks like. You needed to discover it yourself, Orlando replied. Just like my students need to understand chemical reactions through their own experiments. He led them to his desk, where a small chemistry set sat ready. Speaking of experiments, want to show your future son's parents some basic reactions? Every good doctor should understand chemistry. As Orlando demonstrated simple experiments, his hands steady and sure, Marcus watched the man who'd chosen to be his father despite everything, who'd waited patiently for truth to emerge instead of forcing it. Months later, Oliver was born. The birth announcement carefully omitted the Nelson name, listing him simply as Oliver Russo Cardenas. Jenny tried sending gifts, which Marcus returned unopened. Calvin's attempts at contact were met with legal warnings. The story spread through medical circles, destroying Jenny and Calvin's carefully crafted reputations. Lucille found herself isolated, her social circle dissolving as the truth about her role emerged. Her attempts at reconciliation were met with silence. 1 year later, Marcus established the Truth Project, a foundation helping children of divorce navigate family deception. Orlando's chemistry program received another national award, his student success rates making headlines. In his bright Colorado classroom, Orlando taught his grandson simple chemistry experiments, watching truth and justice form perfect compounds across generations. The betrayal that had shaped their lives had finally transformed into something pure, a legacy of honesty, patience, and the unshakable bonds between a father and the son who chose him back. Epilogue, 5 years later. The prestigious Journal of Medical Ethics published its annual feature on significant cases of professional misconduct. On page 6, under notable cases of long-term impact, the Nelson Russo case still commanded attention. The Nelson Russo case remains a landmark example of how personal misconduct can destroy decades of medical reputation. Former Chief of Medicine Dr. Calvin Nelson's systematic abuse of his position to falsify medical records, combined with Administrative Coordinator Jenny Nelson's complicity, led to the most significant ethics scandal in Midwest Medical Center's history. Faith Bruce set down the journal in her new office at Denver Metropolitan Hospital, where she now served as head of nursing services. Orlando had recommended her for the position 3 years ago, after the fallout at Midwest Medical had made staying there impossible. Her computer pinged with an email notification to faith.bruce@denvermetro.org from ethics.board@midwestmed.org. Subject: Final update, Nelson case status. Dear Ms. Bruce, as a key witness in the Nelson Russo ethics investigation, we are informing you of its conclusion. Dr. Calvin Nelson's medical license has been permanently revoked in all 50 states. The board's decision cites unprecedented abuse of medical authority spanning 2 decades and systematic falsification of medical records to conceal personal misconduct. The hospital's civil settlement with affected parties has been finalized. Mrs. Jenny Nelson, formerly Russo, remains permanently barred from employment in any medical facility receiving federal funding. Regards, Medical Ethics Board, Midwest Medical Center. Faith smiled grimly as she forwarded the email to Orlando. His response came quickly. Justice takes time, but it always arrives. Speaking of arrival, still coming to Oliver's 5th birthday next weekend? He's requesting his favorite chemistry aunt. The years had reshaped everyone's lives. Faith clicked through recent social media updates, noting the contrasts. Jenny Nelson's carefully curated social media presence had crumbled. Her last public post, dated 3 years ago, showed her desperately defending Calvin. My husband made mistakes, but his medical contributions should count for something. The medical community's response had been swift and brutal, with former colleagues openly recounting other instances of ethical violations they'd previously overlooked. Now approaching 60, Jenny worked as a receptionist at a small insurance office 2 states away. Her attempts to maintain social standing had failed as thoroughly as her marriage to Calvin. Their joint assets had been decimated by legal fees and civil settlements. Calvin Nelson, once the celebrated chief of medicine, had his medical license revoked in all 50 states. His ex-wife Patricia's ethics investigation had revealed a pattern of violations extending beyond the falsified records for Marcus. Other families came forward, describing how Calvin had manipulated medical records to help friends hide affairs or cover insurance fraud. Last Faith heard, Calvin was living in a modest apartment in Florida, allegedly writing a memoir no publisher would touch. His former colleagues openly mocked his attempts to reframe his disgrace as a love story that society wasn't ready to accept. Lucille, now in her late 70s, had become a cautionary tale in their social circle. Her role in facilitating decades of deception had destroyed her relationship with Marcus and her standing in the community. Her weekly bridge club, once the source of her social power, had publicly asked her to leave. She lived alone, sending monthly letters to Marcus that his assistant returned unopened. Faith clicked through to happier updates. Orlando's latest post showed him accepting another education award. Summit STEM Academy's chemistry program named one in nation for 5th consecutive year. Program founder Dr. Orlando Russo credits students who understand that true success comes from honest work and patient observation of results. The comment section overflowed with former students sharing their success stories. Orlando had turned personal betrayal into professional triumph, his program now having helped over 100 underprivileged students secure full college scholarships. Marcus's professional page highlighted his latest achievement. Pleased to announce the Truth Project's expansion to 50 new locations nationwide. Our support services for children affected by parental deception have helped over 10,000 families navigate the aftermath of family betrayal. Special thanks to our primary sponsor, Patricia Nelson, whose own experience inspired her generous endowment. Faith smiled at the most recent family photo on Marcus's personal page. Marcus and April with their children 5-year-old Oliver and 2-year-old Elena. The caption read, Weekend Experiments with Grandpa Orlando. Elena insists on wearing his old safety goggles. The comments showed how thoroughly the truth had reshaped family dynamics. Jenny Nelson, Oliver looks so grown up. I'd love to send him a birth. Comment hidden by user. Calvin Nelson. Marcus, we should talk about your mother's health. She's not. User blocked. Lucille Waters. Beautiful grandchildren. I have some family photos too. Comment hidden by user. April's reply to a friend's comment revealed more. Yes. Oliver's already showing Orlando's love for chemistry. Elena too. It's beautiful watching them bond with their grandpa. Blood doesn't make family, love and truth do. Faith's phone buzzed with a text from Orlando. Meeting with College Scholarship Committee. 7 more students qualified this year. Dinner later to discuss your Denver Metropolitan Anti-Harassment Policy implementation. She replied affirmatively, then opened a final email that had just arrived. To all medical staff. From board.communications@midwestmed.org. Subject: Case Study Addition to Ethics Training. The Nelson Russo case study has been added to mandatory ethics training for all medical staff nationwide. This edition emphasizes how personal misconduct can impact patient care and institutional integrity. Key points include Dr. Nelson's systematic abuse of medical records, 1995 to 2019. Administrative complicity in covering ethical violations. Long-term impact on patient trust. Importance of early reporting of suspected violations. The case study concludes with transcripts from the Ethics Board hearing, including Dr. Marcus Russo's testimony about the generational impact of medical ethical violations. Faith closed her laptop, remembering the day Marcus had delivered that testimony. He'd stood straight-backed before the board, speaking truth to power with the same quiet strength Orlando had shown all those years ago. The Truth Project's latest quarterly report sat on her desk, its impact statistics telling their own story. 10,000 plus families supported. 50 locations nationwide. 95% success rate in therapy completion. 85% improvement in parent-child relationships. $50 million in legal aid secured for affected families. The final page featured a quote from Marcus. Truth doesn't destroy families. Lies do. Our mission is helping people rebuild on foundations of honesty. Faith's office phone rang the hospital CEO wanting to discuss implementing elements of Marcus's program in their family counseling department. As she picked up the receiver, her computer showed one final email notification. To faith.bruce@denvermetro.org. From jnelson@corinsurance.com. Subject: Please read about Marcus. She deleted it without opening. Jenny had lost the right to maternal concern years ago. Later that evening, Faith joined Orlando, Marcus, April, and the children for dinner. Oliver wore his junior chemistry set apron, proudly showing off the non-toxic experiments Orlando had taught him. Elena toddled after her brother, safety goggles slipping down her nose. The ethics board made their final ruling, Faith mentioned as they sat down. Orlando nodded, helping Elena with her napkin. I saw. Jenny's been calling the school again. She called the foundation too, Marcus added. Wanted to contribute her perspective to our parent reconciliation program. April squeezed her husband's hand. The restraining order's still active if you need it. No need. Marcus watched his children playing with the man who'd chosen to be their grandfather. Some people never understand that respect and trust have to be earned. Right, Dad? Orlando smiled, showing Oliver how to properly measure ingredients for their after-dinner science experiment. Right? Just like chemical reactions, relationships need the right elements to work. Truth, patience, love, and time, Faith added, raising her glass. Time reveals all truths. They toasted to that, while across town, Jenny Nelson sorted insurance papers in her rented office. Calvin Nelson stared at his rejected manuscript in his Florida apartment, and Lucille Waters sat alone in her house, full of unopened letters to a grandson who would never read them. The truth had taken time to emerge, but its reactions, once started, had transformed everything it touched. In Orlando's classroom at Summit STEM Academy, a poster still hung above his desk. Every reaction reaches equilibrium in its own time. Below it, decades of student success stories proved that patience and truth would always yield the right results. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing, It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.